For months now, we've been keeping a secret and we just let it out. That is, we've been working on React Email's new open source email editor. You can drop a component in your own application and your users get a user-friendly, interactive way to build emails, and then you can send those emails off with whatever service you want. Now, we believe in this so strongly, we've rebuilt all of Recent's email editors, the templates and broadcast editors, using this experience. In other words, we're using this open source package inside of Recent, adding our own custom extensions and styling, just like you can. And today I want to show you how to set it up within an application. We'll talk a little bit about just what it is as well, and we'll look through a few of the customizations you can add. You ready? Let's go. So let's start by giving this thing an overview. If you go to react.email and click on editor, you'll see a bunch of examples here. Let's start with the minimal one, and you're going to be surprised at how easy this is to implement. Here you can see that I can come in here and do something like a title and type this here. And the code is crazy simple. In fact, you'll see over here, I can just drop it in this single component email editor. This comes from React Email, and this core experience is great to get started with. Now you can of course customize this more. So let's look at a few more examples. So if I jump back here, you'll notice that we've got full features. Let's look at this inspector view. You can see that if I come over here and I select something, I get this nice little pop-up menu, but also you'll notice I've got this inspector to the side where here I can customize padding for certain elements. Each of these individual blocks kind of have their own custom section over here. Now, obviously it's not much good if all you can do is write emails. You should be able to export these emails. So let's look at that. Here I've got this export button here. If I click on this, you'll notice that it can convert the entire email to an HTML friendly version for email. So we've got tables and floats and all this kind of stuff. I don't have to write this. You don't have to write this. Drop this in your application. And then when somebody's ready to send an email, you can convert this to email friendly HTML. Now, I mentioned you can customize this, and I want to show you that now. So to start with, here you can have different themes. A minimal theme, you can even write your own custom one. This one uses like a purple color. I'll show you how to do this in a second. It's really easy. You just pass in a config here for your custom theme, which we'll look at again in just a moment. Now, on top of that, you can build custom extensions. So this one has a callout extension. You build this using our docs. We'll show you how to walk through this. It's a Tiptap editor. So it's that kind of structure under the hood here. You'll see that you'll give it a name, a group, the type of content it is, and then you'll have this parse function that then renders to HTML and renders to React email. So all this is built into your own custom extensions. This is what we've done as well. So you can upload images to a CDN. You can have a chart component. A lot of these things that you might need to have as part of your email system, you can now build them in to look and feel like you directly in your own application. Okay, so that's an overview of what you can do. Let's now look at getting it set up in an actual application. So here's my application. It's very simple. It's just a single page with an editor component that's just scaffolded out right now to be a client component. So what we first need to do is install the package that gives us that core editor experience. So I happen to be using Bun. It'll use Bun add a React email editor. So all this will be installed, and then we can get this back up and running to use it in our application. Now in the actual editor component, let's add a couple of things here. I'm going to import email editor, and then we've also got this content here that we can use to kind of pre-populate the editor so we can see that there's something there. So I'm going to come over here and inside this div, why don't we just add email editor, and I want the content to be there, and that's all I have to do. Now, just like that, with our dev server back up and running, we get the basic default experience. So here it is, I refreshed, and I now get this full experience, although you can see that the CSS isn't quite right. So the second thing we will want to do is add in CSS. When you install React Email, you also get access to this default CSS, although you get access to a few other themes as well. And you can actually parse off different parts because this includes things for the bubble menu, the sidebar menu, I believe, the drop down, all that kind of stuff. So if you only want certain parts, you can actually parse those out. But with that installed, now actually in my application, you'll see that the CSS actually looks right. The drop down menu shows properly. If I select certain items, I actually get the right CSS for here as well. So that's all it takes. And just like that, with a few lines of code, I've now got this embedded in my application. So let's take it up another level. The next thing I want to do is add my own custom CSS. So here I've pasted in a few things. I've extended the theme using the editor plugins here, and then I have this custom theme that extends the basic theme and then adds on some extra customizations. Now I can simply pass this custom theme directly to the component. So I'll come down here, we'll have theme like this, and let's pass this on our custom theme. All right, so just like that, this now extends that custom theme and adds my own styling to it. So if I jump back over here, you'll notice now it's in dark mode. I've got some nice padding around it as well. And all this was just that little custom theme that I added onto the default basic one. Now we can keep on customizing this, and we'll look at one more customization in a second. But of course, what we want out of this is email-friendly HTML or email text, right? That I get out of this TipTap structure. So we can do that now by adding in a little button. And when we click that button, we want to use a function to render our email to HTML and to plain text. So let's add that next. Now, the very first thing I did is just add in this button that says send email. So right now it says send, but if I click send, nothing is going to happen. So let's hook up an event handler here. So on click here, we're going to write a custom function here. We'll call it handle send. All right, so this handle send function should handle all the processing we need. Now inside the actual editor here, let's grab this editor ref, which we'll use to grab reference to the actual email editor. So here, let's do ref, and this will just be equal to editor ref. Now, what this will do is allow us to grab the actual content from it, the current state of it, and pass that along to our render function. So back in the component, let's actually build out the handle send function. You'll see it's a very simple async function. I'm just going to double check that the actual editor exists. Assuming it does, I'll use this compose React email we get from React Email's core, and we're going to use this to pass along the actual editor. Now out of here, we can extract the text and the HTML. It gives us both of these back in this async function. So we could just console log, for instance, the text itself. So let's do that. And then let's run it just to see what it looks like. So back over here, you can see I can add extra stuff like hi or whatever. And when I click send, we should get this actually in the console. So if I open it up down here, you'll see we're actually getting the text directly out of here. Now, just like we get text, we can also get HTML, which means we can send this HTML from the actual component. So somebody can write an email, click send, and then we can handle that using resend or any other email service provider. So back in the component, let's change these both to HTML. And now when I run this and I click send, you'll notice we get all of this HTML. This is email friendly, tables, all this kind of stuff. I don't have to write this. The actual editor experience handles all this for me. So we've seen how to customize it. We've seen how to export it. Let's add one extra feature, which is you can add the entire inspector sidebar I showed you earlier in your own application. So your users can play around with the exact settings for each specific block. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new little component inside here. We'll just call it Sidebar. And this, we are importing this inspector from the actual React Email UI. Now, to show you some of these things I've been kind of importing without you seeing it here, you'll see we've got this compose React Email from the core. We pulled in this inspector from UI. Let's see, this was the actual type for the email editor itself. And I think that's most everything except for like a use ref. All right, so we've done all of this from the actual package we get from React Email. The nice thing is you install one package, you get access to all of this. So now that we've got the sidebar, let's actually display it within our application. So let's go back to what we're returning in the component. And here, I'll just replace this with some more HTML. So here I'm just wrapping all of this in a div where we've got our email editor. We've passed along the ref already, the content, the theme, that's all the same. I just added a little bit of CSS here to style this kind of within its wrapper. And then we've pulled in the sidebar component from down here. That's it. We've handled it just by setting up these in kind of a flex container. Now, the way this actually looks in practice is you see that as I type, this sidebar expands. Now, obviously, you can change the styling. This is just a very basic example, but now I can actually add custom padding. So I can add like 12 here, and it actually changes that for that individual component. So all this is baked in by default, and you can style it to look exactly like your own application. Your users simply type in this nice email editor that you can extend and customize however you want. Now, if you want to play around more with the code, let me encourage you to go to react.email, click on editor at the top, and look through all the different examples. Not only do we show you what you can do, but we show you the specific code for each of those items. Now, if you want to get all the way down to kind of the core experience, you can actually pull in the TipTap editor itself and compose all of these layers yourself. And again, we show you a bunch of examples of that. There's documentation for all this as well, along with the entire composable API, so that you can make a React Email's open source email editor work for your application. Let us know what else you'd like to see us add to this. If you have any trouble getting started, please reach out below, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Happy emailing.